Thank you very much, Mark, for the introduction. It is a pleasure to be here and to manage this session on road mapping activities of the four pilots at European level. We have here a set of distinguished speakers, in particular Claudia Eckert, professor at the Technical University of Munich and director of Fraunhofer Isaac, that will represent the Sparta Research and Innovation Roadmap for Cybersecurity. We have Evangelos Markatos, professor at the University of Crete and director of laboratory at FORF, that will present the CyberSec for Europe roadmap. And then we have Arthur van der Wies from Artus Legals and Strategy that will present the Concordia Cybersecurity Roadmap for European Digital Sovereignty, and eventually Theodora Tsikika from the Center for Research and Technology Hellas that will present the ECHO Roadmap. Before having the speakers to present the four roadmaps, the session is structured exactly in this way: 5 minutes for each of them to present their activity, and then a set of more open panel where we can have questions both from the audience and some predefined questions that I will do. So in order to speed up the process, I would invite Claudia Eckert to present the Sparta approach. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Fabio, for the nice introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to briefly introduce the Sparta roadmap activities. Well, we are centered around the main question: what cybersecurity skills and key technologies must be developed to strengthen Europeans' digital sovereignty? And please, next slide. Who is managing the slide?
You should be able to change the slides, Claudia.
Okay, I thought you would. Okay, so, thanks. Our road mapping activities can be characterized like an agile thing. We started with a minimal roadmap. We refined it, extended it, took into account input from different stakeholders, which is visualized in this figure on the right-hand side. And that is, our road mapping approach is some sort of open, because we took it into account what others think and want to contribute. But the main question now is, how did we come up with the topics we put into our roadmap? And the simple answer is we posed a lot of questions. First of all, what are main research challenges to contribute to digital sovereignty? And of course, where are the gaps on the national research agendas? We asked, which horizontal key technology must be developed to address these challenges? And are these appropriate building blocks to build trusted ecosystems to establish an European trusted single market? And we asked, what application domains could benefit from these identified technologies? The next question was, how can certification and education be aligned in early stages? And this is pictured here on the slide. In early stages of technology development, are new certification schemas required? And then these should be developed in early stages, for instance, covering certification of AI algorithms. And last but not least, which kind of assessment trainings and tools are required to develop and extend the skills to handle these new technologies? This is a big catalog of questions we asked, and we came up with, we call them mission programs. 13 mission programs are answering these questions. And the programs took a different perspective: short-term until 2020, mid-term until 2027, and long-term 2030 and beyond, and tackle issues like threat intelligence, data governance, trustworthy software stacks, or a reliable and robust AI. This is version 1 of our Sparta roadmap that is available online. You can have a look at it. We are now starting to prioritize these programs. And again, we ask questions like, what is needed to be able to run, for instance, a trustworthy critical infrastructure in 2025, for instance? Then, of course, we have to took components that are on the market already, because we can't do anything from scratch until 25. But of course, we need to emphasize certification and assessment tooling to be able to assess the quality of existing program components. But we see that we need research and development in trustworthy software stacks to be able to move from existing, maybe untrusted software to trustworthy software. And in the long run, we must be able to move the critical infrastructures to trusted hardware components as well. So we think we have to start right now with trusted hardware components to be able to move onto these trustworthy elements in the near future. So this is something that is ongoing, to pose questions, to prioritize what is necessary, and we are about to compile a new version that will be published in March next year. So you are invited to comment on that. Thank you very much. It's up to you, Fabio.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Then we can go on with Evangelos.
Evangelos, you're muted.
Yeah, your mic is muted, Evangelos. We cannot hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the CyberSec for Europe road mapping. I'm Evangelos Markatos, and in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to give you a roadmap, an overview of the process and outcomes of the road mapping process. So what are we doing in this area of work? We basically define a roadmap for cybersecurity research. But what is a roadmap? How do we define a roadmap? What constitutes a roadmap? And basically, the definition is obvious. It's a set of activities that need to be done in order to address the problem of cybersecurity. Okay, now that we have a definition in place, how do we go about a roadmap? How do we create a roadmap? And maybe you can get some inspiration from here, from Albert Einstein, when he said that the important thing is never to stop questioning. So ask questions. So we did exactly the same thing. We asked a lot of questions like what, who, how, when, this kind of questions. But what exactly questions did we ask? So we try to focus our questions, and we asked, the first question is what? That is, what is at stake? We are talking about cybersecurity. Security is about securing things, protecting things. What is the thing that we would like to protect? What needs to be protected? And the first important question is the what needs to be protected. And then a similar question to that is what is expected to go wrong if we don't protect that thing? That is, how important is it to protect this thing? And then what's the worst thing that can happen if we don't protect this thing? And the worst thing basically tell us what is going to happen. What are we talking about? Is it loss of life? Is it damaged property? What is it? Once we have defined the what, then we define the who. That is, okay, would like to protect something, but who is the attacker? Whom would we like to protect it from? So then we define the attacker. So we answer the who question. And the attacker may be script kiddies, maybe cyber criminals, maybe enemy countries, maybe, I don't know, whatever. We define the attacker. And then once we have defined the what and the who, we move on to how. That is, okay, we know what we want to protect. We know who is the attacker. Then how are we going to protect this thing? That is, what are the research challenges in that area? That is, what kind of research do we need to do in order to protect this thing? And finally, the last question is when. That is there a timetable? Is there a time frame for these things? So, for example, are there short-term needs, medium-term needs, or long-term needs? How do we prioritize this research direction, these research challenges? Which basically means, what do we need to do immediately? What do we need to do in the medium term? And what can wait, say, in 5 or 10 years? Another, important thing about our roadmap is that we focus on 7 verticals. So we have 7, application areas, important areas that we call them verticals, and we focus on research challenges, not on cybersecurity in general, but on cybersecurity for those verticals. We would like to protect, to secure the activities of those verticals. So those verticals are open banking, supply chain, identity management, incident reporting, maritime transport, medical data exchange, and smart cities. So I'll go very briefly through its verticals. So open banking, the research challenges identified, stakeholders interactions, business relationships, cross-border collaboration, authentication, real-time revocation, and corporate open banking security. Then supply chain, the research challenges as risk management, distributed detection, continuous monitoring, and incident management, traceability of shared data spaces, and continuous certification. And identity management, system credential hardening, unlinkability and minimal disclosure, distributed oblivious identity management, privacy preservation in blockchain, and passwordless authentication. In incident reporting, we have identified lack of harmonization of procedures, facilitation of the collection and reporting of incident and data leaks, and promotion of a collaborative approach for sharing incident reports to increase cyber resilience. And in maritime transport, and very important area for Europe, research challenges, early identification and assessment of risks, security hardening, resilience of critical maritime systems, communication security, and securing the autonomous ships. Then medical data exchange, privacy preserving assets, trust mechanism regulation, user experience, and last but not least, smart cities, a very important area where the research challenges are trusted digital platforms, cyber threat intelligence, awareness programs, privacy by design, cyber response and resilience, interoperability between legacy and new systems, detection and prevention, logging and monitoring, and operational security. So to summarize my intervention, in CyberSec for Europe, we define a research roadmap by obviously asking questions. What, who, how, when, these kind of questions. And then we focus on 7 important areas, which we call them verticals, which are open banking, supply chain, identity management, incident reporting, maritime transport, medical data exchange, and smart cities. I thank you for your attention, and then we can move on to the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Evangelos, for the inspiring and informative presentation. And so now is the turn of Arthur for Concordia.
Hi, good morning. Fabio, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
All right, very good. So good morning, everybody.
We don't see you, but okay, now we also see.
Yeah, okay, good. So for Concordia, the roadmap, the third of the 4, this is just the introduction. So I will keep it brief. I cannot see the presentation, but I'll just start.
We see it.
Ah, here it is. Okay. So when we look at the roadmap and cybersecurity, we look at the points that we can, common grounds that we can start from, because cybersecurity is quite broad and also perhaps not done in a proper way. So we need to challenge each other and challenge ourselves. So this is how we start with it. And our goal that we want to achieve is digital sovereignty. It's a very high level objective that generally everybody is fine with. And therefore, it's a good point to start working on. It's very, very big. When we work with that, we look from 4 dimensions, 4 domains. And the domains come out of the proposed regulation establishing European cybersecurity competence centers. And just to remind, this is about the cybersecurity industrial, technology, and research innovation competence center, as well as a network. So these are 4 domains that are written explicitly in the regulation, and these are very nice to use. These are not separate domains. So research is not a separate siloed element. It's combined with innovation. It's also combined with education, skills, as well as economic development and sovereignty. So you need to look at it in a holistic way. So the holistic approach is the main focus. And how do you do that? You need to look to a couple of things. One, you can have objectives, something you want to aim for. And how do we get there? Second one is a challenge. How can we avoid a certain challenge? And what kind of risk can we mitigate there? And in what way can we get there? The third one is indeed scenario plotting, not only worst case or bad case scenarios, but also good case scenarios. Because things can go good now and tomorrow can go bad. As we know, cybersecurity and digital age is very dynamic. So we cannot think that things that are now not bad will never end up bad. So we need to have a very 360 approach and be quite critical about this. So if we're only focusing on the things we're focusing on now, probably we're not doing it correctly. This is some of the notions we want to take in. In our roadmap, and we will deliver one later, early next year, we'll deliver one later this month, but it will be published early next year. We're focusing on these topics. These come out of the digital sovereignty main objective. And then, of course, we have about 60 plus partners in, and also we have, same as the other ones, external stakeholders and parties and partners. So we want to keep, get it in the next couple of years. This is the first version, and we'll take in these topics, the research innovation, and the other ones that I just mentioned, and a few added to it, which are horizontals, including economic perspectives, legal and policy strategy, and certifications and standardization. The one that I will focus on a little bit later in this session is, for instance, community building and investment strategies. But I will keep it short for now. So I'll keep it like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arthur, for the presentation of the holistic approach of Concordia. And now give the floor to Theodora for.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fabio. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
So I will be giving an overview of the eco road mapping activities. It seems I cannot control the slides.
Now they changed.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. So in ECHO, we are also developing our roadmap. This is, of course, an ongoing activity that is dynamic and constantly evolving. And we are focusing on 3 main dimensions, which are technology, training, and certification. So we have followed similar approaches to the other pilots, and in terms of technology, we have started asking questions with the goal to identify the most important cybersecurity challenges, and this form the basis for the development of technology roadmaps within ECHO, and their initial versions focus on the ECHO technology assets which were presented yesterday, including the ECHO early warning system and the federated cyber range, as well as a series of prototype tools that are being developed within our pilot. In terms of training, the idea is to provide a foundation for training and education activities targeting cybersecurity professionals through an eco-cyber skills framework. And in terms of certification, we are also developing a product-oriented certification scheme. Of course, these dimensions are not independent and they are intertwined, and we are jointly investigating them in the demonstration cases of ECHO, where, for instance, we are leveraging the ECHO Federated Cyber Range for training activities. And of course, all our activities are informed by the priority sectors within ECHO, which are health, maritime transport, and energy as critical infrastructure. So I will zoom in a bit to the technology aspects and the challenges that we have identified. And we have identified a large number of challenges, and we have distilled them and grouped them in more high-level priority areas. And these include critical infrastructure, where one of the most important challenges is to develop solutions to protect them and increase their resilience. Data security and privacy, because data are not only drivers for economic growth, but more importantly, we need to protect the people behind the data. Disruptive technologies, there is a challenge to adopt technologies such as artificial intelligence, quantum technologies for improving cybersecurity solution, but also developing solutions for protecting against their malicious use, for instance, AI-based cyber attacks. And of course, we have the IoT ecosystem and autonomous vehicular systems that raise a lot of challenges in terms of their protection and security, given their large attack area and their interconnections. We need to mitigate vulnerabilities in cloud infrastructures and, of course, reinforce security engineering, and to develop also digital forensic approaches which are adaptive and can adjust to the dynamic nature of the cyber threat landscape and be able to have the capability to attribute cyber attacks. Apart from technical challenges, there are also, of course, more horizontal, cross-cutting, transversal challenges relating to human and organizational factors. So these are closely related also to training and education, economic and financial perspectives, legal and regulatory, societal and ethical issues, most importantly, data protection. So within ECHO, these have informed the development of technology roadmaps, which focus more on the actual software development aspects of important assets, such as the ECHO Federated Cyber Range and the early warning system. We have two stages for these technology roadmaps, one within the duration of ECHO, so starting from next year and for the next couple of years, and then technology roadmaps both for these assets, but also for other tools and innovative technologies that are more longer term, starting after ECHO ends. And to conclude, and zooming again back out to the overarching priorities, we are starting to draft some initial high-level priorities that can contribute to our mission of EU digital sovereignty, and so these are based on the challenges that have been identified, but also on the training and certification aspects, and include the protection and resilience of critical infrastructure, the use of AI technologies for augmenting cybersecurity, the need to adopt disruptive technologies, but also balance cybersecurity so it does not act as an inhibitor, develop advanced digital forensics technologies that also have the capability both to adjust, but also to attribute cyber attacks. And what is very, very important, and it's we consider an overarching priority, is to raise cybersecurity awareness, both among cybersecurity professionals, for instance, through the use of early warning systems, but also through training to improve and increase their capacities, protect citizens, and of course, develop cybersecurity certification. So that's a brief overview of the ECHO roadmap. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Theodora. I think now it's time also to have all the speakers in the floor, I would say. And we start a phase where we'll pose some questions. Actually, we have already a question on the chat that has been actually already answered by Claudia. So, and the question was, are they presented roadmap for themselves or for the EU at large, and who is going to approve? Claudia, do you want also to speak openly about this, since you already tried to answer?
Yes, I could answer that. The improvement, we have the review circles where we present our road mapping activities in documents. We have them online, so there is an open, you are invited to discuss and to put your comments on the ongoing roadmap, at least Sparta. The other roadmaps will be online soon or already online. So the whole community should approve our approaches, I think. But of course, the reviewers do that as well.
Okay. Other comments in this from the speakers? If not, I do invite people to continue to make questions on the open chat. I think we have appreciated the different approaches that the 4 pilots are bringing into the arena. This is good. This is why we have actually 4 pilots. But I think it's also time now to discuss how to cooperate, and if we want also how to converge. And in this case, Claudia, maybe which are the consolidation goals that you think may be of interest for the European Union?
Well, we already discussed these conversion and what to do, because as you see, there are different approaches. Each and every pilot poses different questions to come up with a consolidated roadmap. How can we put them together? And we started to focus it really on this digital sovereignty focus view. And then we saw, well, all the different pilots have their view on which kind of technology is required, which kind of education processes are required. So this is the heart of the consolidation process to put all together. But we saw again that there are difference in questionnaires, difference in maybe application scenarios, differences in sustainability questions. So we think it's beneficial for a consolidation process to have some sort of a meta level upon all these different 4 roadmaps. And the meta level might discuss questions like, if you are interested in education, what should be done to improve the skill set until year 2023 or something like that. Then we link it to the different roadmaps and their contributions and comment on that. So everyone sees, wow, from that angle and that angle, these must be done. Or if you want to have an answer, what should be done for coming up with a trustworthy infrastructure, again, that can be answered from the different point of views of the different roadmaps, and we try to guide the reader with these questionnaires. And that is something we try to work out with this kind of meta information and meta level to come up with a convergence roadmap.
Thank you, Claudia. I think it's clear. Also, this helps to answer again the subsequent question of Elisar. But I'm here at Angelos. Since we're speaking about digital sovereignty, what do you think, from your perspective, are the most relevant recent challenges? If you pick, a couple of them, of the many that you have in cybersec for Europe.
Yeah, this is a very important question, and I'm very happy to say that all 4 pilots collaborate towards producing a common roadmap, especially in the area of European digital sovereignty. So I'm very happy that at the end of this effort, this common effort, we have a common roadmap exactly answering this question on what are the important directions in achieving European digital sovereignty. And Claudia, Arthur, Theodora, and myself are active in that area and will continue to be active. Now, if I have to select, say, 2 or 3 preliminary areas that are important for Europe, maybe I would select secure software development, which is a very important area because, computers run on software, and we have somehow to make sure that the software that runs on computers does not contain vulnerabilities, so we develop it securely. Maybe another area is that since we know that some of the software will contain vulnerabilities, maybe another area is vulnerability discovery. So we have obtained a piece of software. How do we increase our confidence that this piece of software is secure? How do we find if it has any vulnerabilities? Now, I have to say that we can never be 100% sure, but we can increase our assurance, 99%, 99.9%. So we can be reasonably certain that this piece of software will be secure. Now, I talked a lot about software, but over the past few years, we have seen that hardware as well has started to have vulnerabilities. And although solving the vulnerabilities in software is, I don't want to say easy, but it is doable. You develop a patch, you deploy the patch, and then the software is secure. Solving the vulnerabilities of hardware is not as easy because what do? You develop a patch and you deploy the patch. There is no software patch for hardware. So this is another important area because it's very difficult. And Europe purchases a lot of a lot of both software and hardware from outside Europe. So somehow we need to be able to make sure that all those things that we acquire from outside Europe are somehow secure or not vulnerable. Or yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Evangelos, for bringing together software, hardware, security by design, and the supply chain aspects. I would say that the overall story. So that's good. And then, Arthur, what do you think it takes to build and achieve and sustain the digital sovereignty in Europe, given all the challenges that we mentioned and Evangelos also stressed again? We cannot hear you, Arthur. Can you speak, Arthur? Arthur?
Arthur, we cannot hear you. You don't appear to be muted, but we cannot hear you.
I don't know if he's speaking. Someone else wants to pick up this question, and then we can be back to Arthur. If not, then Theodora, I would say, how important is cybersecurity awareness and protecting citizens online for strengthening digital sovereignty in Europe? Can you comment on this?
Yes, thank you very much, Fabio. And I think I will pick up from where Evangelos left. So apart from all the technology aspects and the importance of developing technological solutions, we also have the human aspects, and the human aspects not only in terms of cybersecurity professionals, but also in terms of citizens. So for cybersecurity professionals, everyone is talking about the need for increasing the capacity and the skills in the EU. And therefore, it's really important for cybersecurity professionals to acquire training in order to improve their skills. And this, of course, the solutions based on cyber ages and the federations of cyber ages have the opportunity to really move forward with this aspect. And of course, cybersecurity awareness also for information for cybersecurity professionals is very important. And this was also highlighted in the previous session about the financial sector, where early warning systems and information sharing basically, so that a more holistic situational awareness aspect is achieved is really important. But also for the citizens themselves, they need to be well informed and aware of the risk, but also they need to be able to trust digital products and services, and to this end, all the certification schemes that are being developed, we believe will be able to contribute towards that.
Very good. Thank you very much for the answer. Arthur, are you
Can you
there?
hear me
Can
now?
you hear us? Yes, now we can hear you. So,
Okay.
what do you think does it take to build and achieve and sustain digital sovereignty?
Yeah, so if we focus on particular topics in, for instance, research, then as you know, as we all know, the malicious actors will focus on the other one. So we can't choose. We can't choose only say, well, let's do the top 5 and then skip the other ones, because as you know, how malicious actors work, they don't work static and wait. They move. So that's one of the reasons why we need to have a very agile approach, and this is also why the holistic approach is the way forward, because you can continuously loop and double loop where things go wrong and where we need to intervene. So only focusing on a static roadmap for, let's say, the next 5 years already means that we will miss out on topics that we later on find they're very important. That's one. The second one is indeed the timelines, and I heard it a couple of times before, which is good, right? So I think we need to start with quite a few things already today. It doesn't mean that we need to spend all our energy on it. You know, if there is a midterm or long-term objective we want to achieve, or a mid or long-term challenge we see, or already a challenge we have today, we can form the right team. And the team, in my point of view, should be, let's say the team is 11, should be a team that is formed with several sectors, and several from, you know, research, innovation, but also economic development, education, and others. So it is teamwork, and otherwise, you know, it's great research, and then we're not really solving anything. Last point for now, for this round, is the investments. You know, we can build really nice things, moving on, bring it on the market and implement it. And I think that implementation is one of the main challenges in cybersecurity and risk in general in this digital age. So, but if we focus on that, then what happens after? How do we keep and sustain those capabilities within Europe? How do we control, or at least have a meaningful control over those capabilities? And of course, I mean not the capability itself, but the organization that is controlling it or managing it or keeping it up to date, which could of course be the public sector and the private sector. So both the private and the public sector, you know, need to be looked at in how do we sustain them, so they will be able to also sustain sovereignty in the European way. As you know, a lot of cybersecurity companies are bought and acquired by non-EU companies. That is nice for the shareholders or the founder or the investor of that particular cybersecurity company, but it may not necessarily be good for our sovereignty. So this topic is definitely essential as well, because otherwise we spend a huge amount of effort in one particular thing, and then, you know, in 5 years' time, when it's successful, it's out of our control.
Thank you very much, Arthur. Someone else wants to comment? If not, I also noticed that there is an interesting question in the chat that is answered by Claudia about the fact that digital sovereignty is not so stressed in the current regulation that it has been noticed. It will be appear in any case in the new cybersecurity strategy that is going to be, let's say, issued next week, and it is another major stepstone in Europe after the 2013, 2017, and now the 2020 strategy. So, I mean, to keep the timing, we are just 3 minutes by the end of our session. So I would like to give a round floor asking exactly what do you think from your perspective is the most critical topic that we should address digital sovereignty in mid short term. For each of you, a quick answer by all of our panelists. Claudia, do you want to start?
May I start? Yeah. Well, we had a lot, but I personally think that we should think beyond technology. We should think into methodology to come up with agile, secure, self-assessing and self-healing systems to be prepared to handle new and unseen threats in the near future and very quickly. That's my point, and that is a long-term issue.
Thank you, Claudia. Angelos?
Yes, thanks. I have outlined several important things like secure software development, software, hardware, patching, etc. But I would like to focus not on long-term, but on short-term things, something that we can do today and something that we have done. We are already doing it right now. We are using for Telecom a platform that it is open source and it is hosted in Europe. I think such everyday things can make a big difference in European digital sovereignty. Using European products or open source products hosted in Europe can make a major difference. And we are doing that today, and I'm very happy about that.
Thank you. And Arthur?
Yes, on the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I think it may be too optimistic short term that we can have everything European. So my main first focus would be, if you look at definition of digital sovereignty, it's the ability and the degree to have meaningful control and freedom. It doesn't mean you need to have it yourself, everything, but you need to be in control. So the first phase should be to figure out how to have transparency, insight, and oversight of the systems, product, services we are already using, instead of thinking that we can already build everything from the European Union, because we can't at this point, unfortunately. That would be the next step in my point of view.
Thank you very much. And Theodora?
Thank you. I also agree with the rest of the speakers. I would say that it's really important to invest in the human capital, increase their capacity for innovation, their skills, and invest in continuous training through solutions that are available, including all the cyber ranges and their federations.
Thank you very much, Theodora. Thank you very much. We have a latest comment. If you have time to answer just one minute, Ilmaz basically ask if the fact that is in the strategy, the digital sovereignty is part of the political level or would be at the basis to implement the strategy. I don't know if someone wants to comment in this before closing the panel.
Well, we did see in the council minutes of June this year, so summer, similar confirmation, and also recently regarding Internet of Things security. So I think there is sort of a consensus on the topic. On the why I think there is definitely consensus, and it's up to you and us to try to figure out the how, because that will not be a political level thing. That's going to be deferred to us. So there's a lot of weight on our shoulders, and I hope you will be able to help out. I'm fully in.
Thank you very much. So as community, I think excellent. So thank you very much again to all the speakers in the panel, and looking forward to the continuation of this event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you very much to the road mapping focus group for a very, very interesting presentation and discussion. We now have a break, and the break will be between now, 10:47, and 11:15, and we will get started immediately at 11:15. We will have our last two sessions, which are some of the most interesting that you will find. One on the governance focus group, and the second one with all of the coordinators of the pilots. And Luigi Rabuffi, the Secretary General of EXO, will be moderating that panel for an interesting look at the future. So have a good break, and we look forward to you coming back at 11:15 to restart the next session. Thank you. See you then.